Hi and welcome back to Mrs. Riley's Maths videos. This is a video about adding decimals. Now thankfully we can do a lot of our decimal work on a calculator now, but it's still a good idea to make sure we understand how we do add decimals, especially if it's only a quick question, but also if we don't have our calculator, what will we do then? So adding decimals is the same as adding whole numbers, regular numbers, and probably decimals are easier to add than fractions, partly because you don't have to do major work to get them into shape first so that you can add them together, but also because it's more like adding money, and most of us are fairly okay with adding money. We kind of know what's happening. So I'm going to run through this video very quickly. How do we add and subtract decimals? So we'll start with adding decimals. So in the first one we've got 32.46 plus 17.18, and you'll remember from before, from national school or wherever, that when we add decimals, the important thing is that we've got to line up the decimal points. Okay, we can only add decimals when these decimal points are lined up. Once they're lined up, then we add like regular numbers. So 6 and 8 is 14, 4 and 1 is 5 and 1 is 6, 2 and 7 is 9, 3 and 1 is 4, and the decimal point goes under the other decimal points. Okay, let's try the second one. 380.5, 22.98. Now, do you see what I'm doing? When I started that one off, I started 3 over here, but when I put in 22.98, I made sure the decimals were lined up. And for the last one, so I'll put the decimal point in first, 4.735. Now, this is a bit weird because there's nothing else to add onto the 5. If I wanted to, I could put in a 0, I could put in a 0 and a 0. I don't have to do that, but that might help you to see what's happening. Those zeros don't change the values of those numbers at all because they're after the decimal points. So this is 5 tenths, no hundredths, and no 1,000ths. This is 9 tenths, 8 100ths, and no 1,000ths. But this is 7 tenths, 3 100ths, and 5 1,000ths. Okay, so that's why it looks like that. So 0, 0, and 5 is 5, 8 and 3 is 11, 5 and 9 is 14, 14 and 7 is 21, 21 and 1 is 22. Put my decimal place in and carry my 2, 0 and 2 and 4. So 2 and 4 is 6 and 2 is 8, 8 and 2 is 10, 3 and 1 is 4. So my answer is 408.215. Okay, let's just do some examples of subtraction. So example 3, let's say 74.98 subtract 37.35. Okay, and then the second one can be 104.342 minus let's say, just make up a number, 68.983. Okay, so we'll work these through. Sorry Yoda, you fell over a bit there. Okay, so we work these through. Question 3, 74.98 minus 37.35. Again, if you notice, I've lined up the decimal points. 8 minus 5 is 3, 9 minus 3 is 6, all good there. 4 minus 7, I can't do that, can I? So I borrow 1 from the 7. I borrow 10 units there. So 14 minus 7 is 7, and 6 minus 3 is 3. 37.63. And then question 4, 104.342 minus 68.983. Oh, I can see this is going to cause trouble. Again, I've lined up the decimal points together. What do we have? We've got 2 minus 3, that doesn't go, so it's 12. I'm going to have to borrow 1 there, so that makes that 3. 12 minus 3 is 9. 3 minus 8 doesn't work, I'm going to have to borrow 1. So that's 13 minus 8 is 5, and I'm going to have to borrow 1 here as well. 12 minus 9 is 3. Oh dear, I'm going to have to borrow here as well. 3 minus 8 doesn't go, so 13. I'm going to have to borrow 1 from here, which is going to make that 9, and that's going to be gone. Oh, it's very complicated. 13 minus 8 is 5, and 9 minus 6 is 3. 35.359. Let's try one more where I don't have to borrow so much, will we? So let's say 1.874 minus 0.358. Okay, so 1.874 minus 0.358. Now, this is a good one where it's worth kind of guesstimating what the answer is going to be. If I have almost 2 and I subtract around 0.3, my answer is going to be what? Actually, that's not even almost 2, is it? 1.8. So €1.80 subtract 35 cents. I reckon my answer is going to be about €1.50. Wouldn't that make sense? So it's good to get into the habit of guesstimating. So let's borrow one here for the 4. 14 minus 8 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 1 minus 0 is 0. So 1.516. Okay, one last one. Just what do we do if we have plussing and subtracting, adding and subtracting in the same question? So 3.56 minus 1.43 plus 10.725. What I'm going to do, I could do it either. I can either do this part of the question first and then add this on, or I can add these two together first and then subtract. But to keep it straightforward, I'm just going to subtract first. So 6 minus 3 is 3, 5 minus 4 is 1, 3 minus 1 is 2. And now I'm going to add that answer onto this answer, this part of the question. So nothing and 5 is 5, 3 and 2 is 5, 1 and 8, 7 is 8, 2 and 0 is 2, 1 and nothing is 1. So 12.855. Okay, I hope that helps. Other thing you might be asked to do is to put decimals in order of size. So let's just take an example: 0.43, 0.76, 0.47, 0.85, 0.1 and 1.6. So when we're putting decimals in order, the first thing we do is we look and see have they got a whole number. So let's say we're going to go from smallest to the biggest. So any that have a whole number are going to be at the end, aren't they? Because they're bigger than 1 or bigger than 2 or whatever. These numbers here are all less than 1. So what we're doing is we're looking at the first decimal place after the decimal point. So we're looking at that, we're looking at that, we're looking at that, that, and that. That's the first thing we look at. Now, looking at those, this one's obviously the smallest because it's got a 1. So 0.1 is going to be our smallest number. Now, here we've got 0.43, 0.76, 0.47, 0.85. I'm now going to look at the next smallest number after the decimal point, so that's the 4. But this has got a 3 and this has got a 7. So this one, 0.43, is 4/10 and 3/100, whereas this is 4/10 and 7/100. So it's bigger. Then I've got the next one is going to be the 7, so 0.76. 0.85 and 1.6. Okay, hopefully that helps. Talk to you again. Bye.